feeling like you're putting in the work, but just not seeing the breakthrough. It's 2025, and let's be honest, the old playbook. More hustle, better optimization. That might actually be the very thing keeping you stuck.
Welcome to the deep dive. Forget endless scrolling, all that information overload. Today, we're really zeroing in on one surprisingly powerful skill that can change everything. Asking the right questions, especially asking them of yourself. Think of this as maybe your shortcut to a more strategic mindset for the year ahead.
Exactly. And this isn't about, just another productivity hack that's going to be obsolete next month. Our mission today is to give you really actionable ways to rewire your thinking. And it starts with a skill that honestly underpins all success, the art of powerful questioning. We're not just summarizing a book here, we're trying to craft a practical roadmap for your 2025 transformation. Right. And by the time we're done, you'll hopefully grasp this fundamental truth. The questions you ask, they don't just seek answers. They actually shape the reality you experience. You'll learn how to use them to flip setbacks into your greatest lessons, build truly magnetic connections,
and forge alliances that really propel you forward.
So, ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's kick off with, a really core insight for 2025. The answers, they're kind of everywhere now, right? Thanks to AI and everything else. Your real superpower, it lies in crafting the uncommon questions. The ones that unlock entirely new possibilities.
That makes sense.
Think of it this way. The quality of your questions really dictates the quality of your outcomes. It's the essence of, let's call it, intentional inquiry.
Okay, intentional inquiry. I like that.
Yeah.
But in a world that's just drowning in data, how do we move beyond the really obvious questions when we're facing a big decision?
That's where a really focused approach, a strategy for questioning, becomes so valuable. Let's look at what we can call Keystone Questions for those really pivotal moments. The first one. It's designed to bust through your blind spots. Ask yourself this. What is the one fundamental assumption I'm making right now? Like the absolute bedrock that if it turned out to be completely wrong would change this decision entirely?
Ooh.
It's a direct attack on confirmation bias, Our tendency to just see what we want to see.
Wow, okay, that one forces you to really confront the possibility that your whole foundation might be shaky.
Yeah.
What's the next keystone question we need?
Okay, the second one flips your perspective completely. Ask, if I were advising my fiercest competitor on this exact decision, what critical question would I secretly hope they don't think to ask themselves?
That's like getting a spy report on your own weak points. Brilliant.
It highlights those blind spots you might otherwise miss.
Okay, I love that. And the final piece of this keystone questioning routine.
The final one connects your present actions to your future self. You ask, looking ahead, say, to 2030, who do I really want to have become? And what question about that long-term identity does this immediate decision force me to confront? This makes sure you're not just solving today's problem in a vacuum, you're actually building towards your bigger vision, step by step.
These feel like more than just questions. They're like, mental workouts, brain sculpting maybe. You're really pushing us to actively shape our thinking here.
Precisely. That's the idea. Write them down. Wrestle with the answers honestly. Think about how transformative those big what-if questions have been throughout history. Elon Musk asking, what if rockets were reusable? Or what if electric cars were actually aspirational? That spirit of inquiry, challenging assumptions, imagining new realities, it all starts with the question.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're arming ourselves with these really sharp questions for making better choices. Great. But inevitably we stumble, right? What happens then? That awful why me spiral can just drain all your energy.
Oh, absolutely. And in a landscape like 2025, changing so fast, setbacks are guaranteed. They're part of the learning curve. The key is to stop seeing them as personal failures and start viewing them as valuable data points.
Easier said than done sometimes.
It is, but it requires a conscious shift in your internal questioning. So instead of that dead-end, why me, we can adopt something. Let's call it a Socratic self-coaching loop.
Okay, Socratic self-coaching. I like that. A structured way to interrogate setbacks. Where do we begin?
You start with radical clarity. Ask yourself, okay, what specifically feels like failure here? Let's ditch the vague emotions, the drama. What's the objective fact? You got to get granular.
Right, so instead of everything's a total disaster, it's more like, okay, the social media campaign got a lower engagement rate than we projected.
Yeah.
Specific.
Exactly, precise. Then you dig beneath the surface. What unexamined belief or rule, maybe something I learned long long ago is floating around in my head, making me label this a failure. Maybe it's this internal rule like every project must be a massive success right out of the gate, or mistakes are totally unacceptable. We all have those.
Yeah, we definitely do. Those internal pressures, often unspoken. So how do we challenge them effectively?
You interrogate that belief. Ask, why? Why do I hold this rule? What evidence, especially in the context of 2025, truly supports it? You'll often find those rules are outdated, maybe unrealistic now.
Challenge the premise. Okay.
Then you reframe, okay, if this failure wasn't a failure at all, but actually a really critical data point, what key insights is it revealing? What's it trying to teach me about my strategy, my market, maybe even my own limitations or assumptions?
Turning missteps into actual learning opportunities is incredibly powerful. And what's the final question in this loop? The one to really break free from that negative spiral.
This is the crucial shift. Ask, what different question could I ask right now that would open up a path? A path to a solution or just a fresh perspective instead of just dwelling on the problem. So instead of getting stuck on why did this go wrong, you pivot to something like, how can I adapt my approach based on this new information? Or what can I leverage from this experience?
That's about moving from analysis paralysis to spinning your wheels to proactive problem solving. Can you give us a quick, maybe real-world example of this Socratic loop in action?
Sure. Let's imagine a 2025 entrepreneur. They launch a new AI-powered product, right? And it doesn't gain traction immediately. The old brain reaction might be, my idea was terrible, I failed, I'm clearly not cut out for this, just shuts down.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
But the rewired brain, using Socratic questioning, goes, okay, objective fact. User adoption rate is below target for month 1. What assumption led to this? I assumed users would immediately see the value proposition because the tech is cool. Why did I assume that? Maybe because I think the tech is cutting edge. But is that belief true for the user? What evidence supports it? What if the way I'm explaining the value isn't clear? What if the onboarding is confusing? Okay, so what different question opens the solution? How about, what specific question can I ask my early adopters to understand their initial hesitations and points of confusion?
Wow, yeah. See the difference? It shifts completely from self-blame to a question that can actually generate useful answers and action.
That's the goal, from condemnation to constructive inquiry.
Okay, this is huge. So we're using questions to navigate setbacks, learn better. Now, what about building connections? In a world just saturated with content, how do we use questions to build a brand or even just a presence that actually resonates and, connects with people?
Yeah, another great application. This is where intentional questioning becomes absolutely key to understanding your audience on a much deeper level than just demographics. It's about tapping into their unspoken needs, their aspirations, maybe even their fears. Think of using questions to build these little bridges of empathy and trust.
And you mentioned 2025, authenticity isn't just a buzzword anymore, is it? It feels essential for survival, especially in the creator economy or for solopreneurs. But putting yourself out there, being visible, it can feel really vulnerable.
It absolutely can. And that vulnerability, that fear of visibility, often stems from asking the wrong internal questions. Questions focused on your own fears. What if they judge me? What if I'm not good enough? Instead, we need to shift the focus outward. Use what we can call audience resonance filter questions.
Audience resonance filter. Okay.
Before you create anything, a post, a video, an offer, ask yourself, what is the silent fear or maybe the unspoken aspiration that my ideal client or customer is carrying around with them right now, today, in 2025, related to my niche? You have to go beyond the surface problems they talk about. What's underneath?
That takes real empathy, really tuning into the emotional undercurrents of your audience. It's not easy. What's the next filter question in this process?
Next, ask. What specific question are they likely already asking themselves? Maybe quietly, maybe desperately, that my content or my offer can directly, empathetically, and valuably answer. It's about meeting them exactly where they are, addressing their immediate concerns, their current internal dialogue.
So it's like being a guide for them, answering the question they already have, rather than just broadcasting your own message.
Exactly. You're joining the conversation already happening in their head. And the final filter, which is crucial for building trust. If I were my ideal client reading this, watching this, what question would I need to have answered by this piece to feel truly seen, understood, and maybe even hopeful, not just feeling like I'm being sold to?
Hopeful. That's a powerful word there. Seen, understood, and hopeful.
Consistently asking these 3 questions before you create, it rewires your entire creative process. It forces it to be deeply audience-centric, and that's what makes a brand, or even just your communication, feel magnetic and authentic.
It really shifts the focus from what do I want to say to what does my audience need to hear, or what question can I answer for them?
Precisely. Think about people who've built incredibly strong communities, like, say, Brené Brown. She built a massive following by asking courageous questions about vulnerability and shame, validating those unspoken questions millions were grappling with. That creates connection.
That's a fantastic example. Okay, so questions help build our brand and connect with our audience. Now, let's zoom in on forging connections one-on-one, networking. In 2025, it really feels like it needs to be less about those superficial exchanges, swapping business cards, and more about building real sturdy alliances.
You're spot on. In our increasingly hybrid world, maybe even more disconnected in some ways, those purely transactional interactions, they just don't build lasting value. They feel empty. To create truly, let's say, unbreakable alliances, you have to move beyond the standard networking scripts. You need to ask questions that actually reveal deeper motivations, shared values, maybe even shared challenges.
Okay, so how do we ditch the awkward small talk? What do you do? Oh, that's interesting. How do we get to something more meaningful faster?
Okay, try employing what we can call the uncommon ground protocol, some specific question shifts. So instead of the totally predictable, what do you do? Well, try asking something like, beyond your official title or your current role, what's a problem you're genuinely fascinated by solving right now? Or maybe, what kind of future are you actively trying to help create?
Oh, that's much better. It opens up a completely different kind of conversation.
Right. It bypasses the job description and gets straight to passion and purpose. It immediately sparks a more engaging dialogue.
Yeah, it tells you about their drive, not just their LinkedIn profile. Okay, what's another question from this protocol?
All right, instead of immediately thinking about how to pitch your services, which people can sense a mile off,
Right.
try asking something like, what's one significant challenge you're currently navigating where an outside perspective, maybe even an unconventional one, might be surprisingly helpful?
That positions you as a potential collaborator, a thinking partner, not just a salesperson.
Exactly. It offers an opportunity to provide genuine value up front. To listen first. It builds goodwill.
That feels much more reciprocal, much less self-serving. I like that. And how do we use questions within this protocol to build, actual trust in these interactions? That's the hard part.
Yeah, trust is key. To foster that deeper trust, try asking something like, in today's rapidly shifting landscape, this 2025 world we're in, what's a core value or maybe a guiding principle that has become even more important to how you operate, how you make decisions?
Wow, that goes deep.
It does. It taps into their fundamental beliefs, their ethical framework. It helps you understand what really drives them beyond just business goals. These kinds of questions, these common ground questions, they cut through the superficial layers and create genuine space for real connection.
It reminds me a bit of those great podcast interviewers, like Tim Ferriss or Rich Roll. They have this knack for asking questions that really draw out the essence of their guests, build that deep rapport quickly.
Exactly. They are masters of asking those unexpected, often probing questions that reveal deeper insights and build that authentic connection you feel even just listening. It's the same principle.
This whole conversation has been incredibly helpful. Honestly, it's really shifted my perspective. I was always focused on finding the right answers, but now I'm appreciating the immense power of asking the right questions.
And that right there is the key takeaway. It's not about feeling broken or lacking something. It's about consciously evolving your mental operating system for the complexities and opportunities of 2025. Thriving in this era, it really requires consciously rewiring your mind through the deliberate, thoughtful use of powerful questions.
So it's really time to stop just reacting to whatever 2025 throws at us.
Right.
And start actively questioning our way towards the future we actually desire.
Precisely. Stop waiting for answers to just fall into your lap. Start asking the questions that will illuminate your path forward. Sharpen your thinking. Because ultimately, the quality of the questions you ask yourself and others, that will absolutely determine the quality of your journey, your business, your impact.
Okay, so for you, our listener, here's a little challenge to take away from this deep dive. What is one outdated question? Maybe a limiting question you ask yourself out of habit that you are absolutely committed to stop asking yourself starting right now.
Yeah, just one. What's that nagging question that holds you back?
Take a moment, really think about it, and consider the impact. just shifting that one question could have on your perspective, your feelings, and ultimately your outcome.
Identify it. Maybe write it down. And then decide consciously what more empowering question you could ask instead.
Now go out there and ask something truly powerful. Ask something different. You might just surprise yourself with where it takes you.